Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss any video lesson from Rao's IAS Study Circle.
Hello and welcome to the Daily News Simplified, an analysis of the Hindu newspaper from UPSC perspective. Now you might all be aware that we have recently announced the dates for the second pre-parikshan test. So all the aspirants who are appearing for the prelims examination of 2021 are recommended to appear in this test on this weekend, where it will be live for 3 days, that is between 20th of August and 22nd of August. So do appear in large numbers and try and get a feel of the real prelims examination before the real prelims takes place on 10th of October.
So today we will discuss the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 18th August 2021, and the articles that we will discuss today are displayed on your screen. So let us start the discussion now. This article on page number 6 is related to one of the burning issues in the international relations, and that is the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan. Now there are multiple viewpoints on why did Taliban take over Afghanistan so swiftly, and also what led to the immediate withdrawal of US by leaving the nation in a lurch. Also, the issue of Afghanistan impacts the regional security for various bordering countries as well as the Asian region as a whole. However, in this discussion, we'll try and restrict ourselves to the views that have been expressed by the author in this regard regarding the situation that has unfolded in Afghanistan. So, in this line, the author has highlighted the concern of Kabul falling in the hands of Taliban even before the predictions that were provided by the US intelligence agencies. We all know that the US had predicted that after the withdrawal of the US forces from Afghanistan, it will take about 90 days for the Taliban to take over whole territory of Afghanistan. However, that has not happened, and Taliban has taken over Afghanistan even before the last date of withdrawal of the US forces from Afghanistan. Further, with the US withdrawal and the current president escaping to safe havens, there is no effective resistance in Taliban. And in this line, the author highlights the gravity of situation in Afghanistan by comparing the Soviet withdrawal with that of the US withdrawal from the Afghanistan. And this takeover of Taliban will pave way for further terror in Afghanistan, and also old threats of the Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State will again resurface. In this line, he has concluded by saying that overall the stakes are very high for Iran and India, which are the two important players which were kept out of the whole Afghan peace process. So in this regard, let us first look at what are the parallels in the US withdrawal and the Soviet withdrawal. Also, what are the parallels between the present situation of Afghanistan and what happened in Syria. And also, what are the fault lines that exist in Afghanistan which could lead to future issues to the regional security. And lastly, we'll look at what are the concerns for India and Iran and what India should do in this regard. Now, the first parallel that the author has drawn is between the US withdrawal and the Soviet withdrawal that happened back in 1990s. So in this line, the author highlights that the situation on ground is very different from what the Taliban had projected at the Doha talks. So during the Doha peace talks or the peace process, Taliban had projected itself very maturely and that it would avoid violence in the near future in Afghanistan. However, on ground, Taliban has indulged itself in widespread violence, and also this has led to a kind of humanitarian crisis in the Afghanistan. Now, comparing the present situation of Afghanistan after the US withdrawal with the situation that existed in Afghanistan after the Soviet withdrawal, the author says that when the USSR withdrew from Afghanistan, it still had a titular head. And at that time, Muhammad Najibullah was the president of Afghanistan. And he was opposed to any kind of presence of Taliban in Afghanistan. However, the present situation, as we all know, is very different. Because we note that the existing president of Afghanistan, Ashraf Ghani, has fled the Afghan territory. And as such, the whole of governance and the territories of Afghanistan have now fallen into the hands of Taliban. And as such, there is no effective resistance against Taliban that exists today in the Afghan territory. Further, with the USSR's withdrawal at that time, it was contending its position with another superpower, that is United States of America. This is because during that period there were two superpowers, that is the USSR and the United States of America, and both were contending for increasing their influence in various parts of the world. In this line, USSR tried to assert its influence in Afghanistan but had to face a defeat at the hands of Afghans. And as such, the Afghan issue at that time was a part of the larger Cold War politics that was going on. However, the present situation is very different, as we all say that in the international relations, the United States of America is the only superpower. and as such, the global politics has now become unipolar. So, in this situation, when US is the only single superpower in the world, its withdrawal at the hands of Taliban is very disturbing. Further, the author highlights that back in 1990s, Afghanistan's neighboring countries as well as other superpowers wanted to prevent it from becoming an unstable territory, and they never legitimized Taliban's existence in Afghanistan. And at that time, Taliban was considered as an outlaw. However, presently, we all note that Taliban has been recognized by all the powers, including the US, Russia, and China, and also it has got huge support from Pakistan in terms of money and material. So, in this situation, the author highlights the concern that in an era where the countries want a regulated world order, the rise of a nation that is ruled by a terrorist organization is certainly a clear defeat for such rule based world order. In this line, the article also falsifies the parallels that are being drawn between the situation in Syria and the situation in Afghanistan. Let us look at these parallels and how they are not true. So, comparing the situation of Afghanistan with that of Syria, the author says that in Syria, even during the prime of its crisis, it had a strong president in the form of Bashar al Assad. However, this is not the case in Afghanistan because the last president of Afghanistan, Ashraf Ghani, has now fled the Afghan territory and he has no control in Afghanistan whatsoever. Further, the situation of Syria and Afghanistan is different because the borders of Afghanistan are very porous, and this can lead to movement of terrorists across the borders along the neighboring countries of Afghanistan, and that is why it is a serious cause of concern for regional stability, and this will adversely impact the regional stability in this particular region. Further, regarding the situation that is taking place in Afghanistan, Taliban wants to rule by gaining legitimacy from China, Russia, and Pakistan, and it already has legitimacy from United States of America because US was the one which first recognized and sat for talks with Taliban. However, Taliban wants to rule by gaining legitimacy from China, Russia, and Pakistan and wants to keep India and United States of America out of all this. There is another parallel that is drawn in the history, and that is the US's withdrawal from the Vietnam after the US lost the war in Vietnam during the Cold War era. Now, during the Cold War era in 1975, when the United States of America withdrew from Vietnam, the leadership of Vietnam was under the Communist Party, and as such, Vietnam was able to emerge as a vibrant nation with a thriving economy. However, under Taliban regime, the author highlights that Afghanistan cannot hope for any such outcome because the Taliban does not stand for modern nation building. And the Taliban wants to create an Islamic Emirat which clearly is against the idea of modern nations. So this brings us to next important issue as to what are the other fault lines that exist in Afghanistan which could further deteriorate the situation of Afghanistan and also the situation of the region. Let us look at this issue. Now, in this line, the author highlights that legitimacy was provided by the previous government of Afghanistan led by Ashraf Ghani to various private militias in order to fight against Taliban. However, such kind of support and legitimacy that was provided by the Afghan government to the private militias will further explode the situation that exists in Afghanistan. Further, it also needs to be understood that under the Afghan government tried to bring together all the ethnic communities that exist in Afghanistan. However, after the takeover of Taliban, it will further create fault lines between the different ethnic groups that exist in Afghanistan. These include the Pashtuns, Uzbeks, Tajiks, Hazaras, etc. And because of the Taliban's takeover, fault lines will further be created between these ethnic communities. So on this map, you can see the distribution of various ethnic communities that are part of Afghanistan presently. Further, we all note that after the withdrawal of United States of America and the president of Afghanistan fleeing to neighboring countries, the resistance against Taliban is on wane. And because of the lack of international resistance against Taliban and other terror groups, the other terror groups that exist in the Afghanistan will also be encouraged by the situation there. And the US presence for the last 20 years has not led to the end of any terror group in the region. This is because there has been instances of resurgence of Al-Qaeda which the US had claimed it had fought in Afghanistan, and also the resurgence of Islamic State is also being seen in the territory of Afghanistan. So this is again a serious threat to regional security because of the presence of such terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda and the ISIS in the territory of Afghanistan. And as such, it is being predicted that Afghanistan will be a fertile ground for these terror organizations to operate from and wreak terror in the neighboring regions. In this line, the author highlights that among Afghanistan's neighbors, India and Iran are the two countries that would find accommodation with Taliban dominated Afghanistan very difficult. This is because even during the peace talks that happened between Taliban and the US and the Afghanistan, India and Iran were not invited. Further, we all know that India and US have been collaborating in the Indo-Pacific region in the form of quadrilateral security dialogue. However, such collaboration in the Indo-Pacific will come into question when the US has withdrawn from the other part of Asia, that is Afghanistan. We all note that there has been growing nexus of China, Russia and Pakistan recently in the region, and all these events are working to disadvantage of India. So the author cautions that a great deal of hard thinking is needed as to how to retrieve a situation that for the present seems heavily tilted against India. So these were few points that were highlighted by the author regarding the situation that has unfolded in Afghanistan, what are the various fault lines that exist in Afghanistan, and what are the parallels that are being drawn in history regarding the situation of Afghanistan. With this, let's take up the next news article now. This article on page number 6 is related to the issue of copyrights, and this is because of the recommendations that have been provided by the Parliamentary Committee on this issue. In this line, the Parliamentary Committee has observed that the conflict that is arising between the copyright holders and the educational institutions does not bode well for the overall literary culture and image of the country. And as such, the committee has observed that protecting copyrights of the publishers and authors encourages enrichment of quality books, etc. However, for providing or increasing its access to the educational institutions, the public accessibility of such works should be provided at an affordable rate. What are the recommendations of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on this issue of copyrights, and also what is the existing copyrights regime in India and what is the relevant act related to this? So let us look at this issue and try and understand the important details of the copyrights and what is the present issue. So in this line, the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Commerce has recommended on the copyrights regime in India, and it has observed that the conflict that is arising between the copyright holders and the educational institutions does not bode well for the overall literary culture and image of the country. Now, conflict is regarding the right of the copyright holders like the authors, etc., and between the right to access these books of the educational institutions. And there is an ongoing conflict between the rights of the copyright holders and the rights of the educational institutions. And in this regard, the Parliamentary Standing Committee has observed that such a conflict between the copyright holders and the educational institutions does not bode well for the overall literary culture and image of our country. The committee has also observed that protecting the copyrights of the publishers and authors encourages the enrichment of quality books. However, such encouragement of quality books by the publishers and authors by protecting their copyrights should be counterbalanced with public accessibility of such works at an affordable rate. In this regard, the committee has also made some recommendations. First is that necessary changes should be made in the Section 52 of the Copyrights Act to permit the government-owned institutions to reproduce and store such works in their libraries. So the committee has also proposed restrictions on the present unrestricted commercial grant that is provided to copy books and literary works in the digital formats. Third recommendation of the Parliamentary Standing Committee regarding the issue is the establishment of community libraries to help the educational institutions for easy access of such works. So the committee has recommended establishment of community libraries for easy access of works of foreign publishers that are exorbitantly priced and difficult for the students and the academicians to access. It also recommends the National Mission on Libraries to be implemented effectively. And finally, it has recommended redesigning the Copyrights Act of 1957 on the line of Berne Convention to balance the interests of both copyright holders as well as the public at large. So the committee on the one hand is vouching for the protection of copyrights of the publishers and the authors, and on the other hand it is trying to increase the access of such copyrighted works to the public at large. And in this regard it has provided these recommendations. Now regarding Berne Convention, you should note that it was adopted back in 1886 and it deals with the protection of works and the rights of the authors. Now this convention provides creators such as authors, musicians, poets and painters with the means to control how their works are used, by whom are they used, and on what terms. And you should note that India is also a member of this convention. Now, although the committee has vouched for the protection of copyrights of the publishers and the authors, the present article highlights that these recommendations can have a potential consequence on right to education, which is fundamental and superior than the rights of the copyright holders because it is guaranteed by the constitution. And also, the pandemic has exposed difficulties of access to copyright content. So, in this backdrop, it is necessary to give more primacy to the interest of the public as compared to the present situation that is being recommended by the Parliamentary Standing Committee on the present copyrights regime in India. So, this is basically the issue here. Now, in this background, let us look at what is meant by this term copyright and what is the present copyrights regime in India. So, what is meant by the term copyright? So, copyright is a legal term that is used to describe the rights that creators have over their literary and artistic works. Works that are covered by copyright range from books, music, paintings, sculpture, and films to advertisements and also computer programs. Now, what is the purpose of the copyrights? So, copyright basically ensures certain minimum safeguards of the rights of the authors over their creations, and it protects and rewards their creativity. And it needs to be understood that the economic and the social development of a society is dependent on creativity of individuals. So, the protection that is provided by the copyrights to the efforts of writers, artists, designers, etc., creates an atmosphere that is conducive to creativity. So, basically, copyright is an understanding of the rights of the creators, which can range from books, music, paintings, etc., and it creates an atmosphere that is conducive to creativity in a nation. Now, in India, the copyrights are governed by the Copyrights Act of 1957, and it protects the original literary, dramatic, musical, artistic works, cinematographic works, and sound recordings from unauthorized uses. Unlike the case with patents, copyright protects the expressions and not the ideas, and there is no copyright in an idea. Further, the creator of a work can prohibit or authorize anyone to reproduce the work in forms such as print, sound, video, use the work for a public performance such as play or musical work, make copies or recordings of the work such as compact discs, cassettes, etc., broadcast it in various forms, or translate the same to other languages. So, these are the restrictions that can be provided by any author or creator of a content. Then what is the duration or term of the copyright? So in case of original literary, dramatic, musical or artistic works, the duration of copyright is the lifetime of the author or the artist, and 60 years counted from the year following the death of the author. In case of cinematograph films and sound recordings, the duration of copyrights is for a period of 60 years. So this is the duration. These are the rights of the creators and the authors, and these are the things that are covered under the copyrights. So in the beginning of this article, we have understood that the Parliamentary Committee has tried to balance the rights of the creators and the authors with that of the public. The article highlights that there is a need for balancing the copyrights with the interests of the society. So if the copyrights protection are applied rigidly, it can hamper progress of the society. And to strike an appropriate balance between the rights of copyright owners and the interests of the society as a whole, there are exceptions in the present law. So the section 52(1) of the Act gave exceptions to the infringement of copyrighted materials where there is reproduction of any literary, dramatic, musical or of any artistic work. And this could be done for any fair dealing for the purpose of research and private study by any teacher or pupil in the course of instruction as a part of the question to be answered in an examination. So this is where the exceptions were provided against the copyrights. And in the Delhi University photocopy case, the Delhi High Court had reiterated these exceptions that are available to the students and also to the educational institutions. And the court at that time had held that copyright was always about maintaining a balance between competing ideas of private and public interests. So the author highlights that on the one hand, it is important to protect the copyrights of the creators and the authors. However, on the other hand, it is also important to balance the larger interest of the society. And already our section 52(1) provides certain exceptions to the reproduction of any literary, dramatical, musical or artistic work. And the recommendations provided by the Parliamentary Standing Committee for amending the section 52(1) of the Copyrights Act would stand against the larger interest of the society. So these are some points that were highlighted in this article which argue in the larger interest of the society against the copyrights. With this, let's take up the next news article now. Now, this article on page number 7 is related to the livestock economy of India. And in this line, the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs has announced the approval of implementation of special livestock sector package amounting to rupees 9,800 crores to support livestock development. Now, agriculture and livestock development is one of the important aspects of the General Studies Paper 3 in the economy section. So in this background, let us try and understand the different aspects of the livestock sector in India. In this, what is the importance of livestock for rural economy? Second aspect will be constraints and challenges in the development of livestock in India. And finally, what are the strategies that can be adopted for improvement of livestock development in India? So let us look at all these aspects from our General Studies Paper 3 and from the mains examination perspective. Now, if you look at the animal husbandry, it accounts for 30% of the agricultural output. Further, the animal husbandry is very crucial because women constitute for about 70% of the labor that participates in animal husbandry. Further, most of the livestock in India is concentrated in dry land areas. And such livestock is also concentrated with small and marginal farmers. Now, as animal husbandry plays an important role in the agricultural output in India, further, most vulnerable sections of the society are participating in this sector. The development of animal husbandry can play a crucial role in the inclusive and sustainable development in India. And that is why it is very important for us to develop the livestock economy. So let us first try and understand what is the importance of livestock in rural economy and how the livestock can play a very crucial role in the development of rural economy. Now, first and foremost, the livestock can be a very important source of subsidiary income for the agricultural communities. We note that the agriculture is one of the most vulnerable sections in the Indian economy. And it is because of the increasing input cost, the profitability in the agriculture sector is decreasing rapidly. And in such a scenario, the development of livestock can play a crucial role in providing subsidiary income to the communities that are involved in agriculture in India. Secondly, the livestock is an important source of animal protein, and the milk, meat, and eggs all are considered as very important sources of animal protein. We already know that majority of the malnutrition people in India are living in the Indian villages. And as such, the livestock can play a very crucial role in removing the issue of malnutrition from the rural areas. Further, livestock provides for social security because the families, especially the landless, which own the animals, are better placed than those who do not have the animals. So, in times of drought, etc., the livestock economy can play a very crucial role and can be a source of social security for the most vulnerable sections of the society in the rural areas. Now, as far as agriculture is concerned, the farmers depend on bullocks for plowing, carting, and transport of inputs and outputs. And accordingly, the livestock is very crucial. And finally, livestock can play a very important role in providing fuel in the form of dung cakes, fertilizers in the form of farmyard manure, and plastering materials, which is known as poor man's cement. Now, already the organic farming is getting acceptance across the sections in India. And as such, the livestock economy can play a very crucial role in organic farming. Now, although the livestock economy is very important for the rural economy, the development of livestock sector sees some constraints and challenges. Let us look at these constraints and challenges in the development of livestock sector. Now, one of the biggest constraint is the shortage of feed and fodder for the livestock. And as such, only 4% of the land has been categorized as pasture land. However, the number of livestock in India is huge in number because majority of the land of India is involved in agriculture, and as such the feed and fodder for the livestock is seen as a bigger constraint in the livestock development. Second is the frequent occurrences of deadly diseases in the livestock. One of the biggest example is foot and mouth disease. Now, such diseases lead to lesser productivity and deaths of the livestock at times, and this can be very costly for the people who are involved in livestock rearing. Further, for the products of livestock, the markets are relatively underdeveloped as compared to the markets for agricultural products, etc. And as such, this is also one of the constraints and disincentives why people are not engaging in livestock sector in the rural areas also. Now we have seen one of the biggest experiment with the livestock sector in the form of Amul revolution or the white revolution. And the milk revolution has helped in alleviating poverty in majority of the Indian villages, and this has been very crucial in uplifting the women out of poverty. And it has substantially supported the income for women because they are the ones who are involved in the white revolution or the milk revolution. So the Amul is one of the best examples for development of livestock sector and how it can provide additional income in the rural areas and to the women who are involved in the livestock sector. And we have already seen that 70% of the rural women are involved in livestock sector. Further, the livestock extension services are grossly neglected. For example, in case of agriculture, we have Krishi Vikas Kendras, etc., and the government is involved in information dissemination. However, no such things or on a very limited scale such things exist as far as the livestock sector is concerned. Then there is lack of international processing standards which hinders the export of meat and milk products. So acceptance of international processing standards is one of the crucial areas that the government needs to work on for promoting the export of meat and milk products. Now besides these factors, there is poor coverage of livestock insurance and also poor coverage of artificial insemination. And because of these constraints and challenges, the livestock sector is not developing in India optimally. Now, in this background, let us look at the strategies that can be adopted for the development of livestock sector. First and foremost is expansion of coverage of artificial insemination. Now, artificial insemination is key for improvement of breed of the livestock. And in this line, it has been highlighted that the e-Pashuhat portal has to be expanded to connect the breeders with the farmers, and necessary information about the availability of quality bovine germplasm should be provided. Second is the addressing of shortage of male germplasm or breeding bulls. And as such, there is a need for identifying more high genetic merit bulls. Third is addressing the acute shortage of feed and fodder. And this aspect can be taken care of if the National Livestock Mission is implemented properly. Then there is a need for skilled human resource development in order to enhance the extension services or the support services or the knowledge services to the livestock sector people or the people who are involved in the livestock economy. The next important step can be development of dairy entrepreneurs, and this can be done by providing them cheaper access to credit, hand-holding support, etc., and various government incentives as well as marketing reforms. Also, effective implementation of Rashtriya Gokul Mission and Rashtriya Kamdhenu Ayog for development and conservation of indigenous bovine breeds. There is also a need for organizing the farmers into farm producer organizations, which can also focus on diversification towards low cholesterol ghee, low fat butter, flavored milks, ice cream, because these are the high selling items as far as the livestock products are concerned. And as such, the farmers producer organization can play a crucial role in marketing the products of livestock in India. And finally, there is a need for promoting contract farming. Now, contract farming in poultry sector and dairy sector has been successful in some of the states such as Punjab. For example, the Nestle's association with the farmers in the Punjab for the procurement of milk has been responsible for socio-economic transformation, and such models can be adopted in different states of India. So these are some of the issues, constraints, and the importance of livestock development in the agricultural or the rural economy of India. And as such, these are some of the strategies that can be adopted. Now, this is a pretty simple topic, and if you remember or prepare these topics carefully, you can easily score good marks because recalling diverse points in the mains examination is sometimes difficult. So you just have to keep a track or you just have to note down these points because they are pretty simple, just that you need to collate them properly so that you can use them in the examination and you are able to recall them in the real mains examination. With this, let's take up the next article now. With this, we conclude today's discussion, and this is the question for the day.